How y'all doing? A while back I showed off my entire collection of Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress. For those of you who don't know, it's a board game created by Games Workshop where you are a series of explorers trying to explore this abandoned alien space station. And it was very popular for a couple of years. Came out with six expansions before they discontinued it, and I got mine at the tail end, about the tail end when they stopped. Of course, with that, you have associated fiction by published by Black Library, and that is, you got the Blackstone Fortress, which is a full novel, and you have an anthology of Vaults of Obsidian. And for this review, I'm going to go over with the third and final book, Blackstone Fortress Ascension. This continues where the other two left off. Well, technically, continues where this one left off, obviously. Well, the short stories are, I guess are stories in between. So, one way or the other, it's the final book, and we're going to explore it. So, a lot of things happen where we sort of left off the last time. We begin with Teddius, who's a priest of the God Emperor of Mankind, who's also one of the explorers who play in the board game. Him and Pius Warren and two ratlings, Rouse and Rain, they're exploring, and Teddius is trying to use his book to find a special vault that, he believes he's the anointed one for that the book describes of. So by, finding this vault, he can gain control of the Blackstone Fortress and, do the work of the Emperor through that. He ends up, things don't go well. He ends up losing his faith in everything in the middle of Blackstone Fortress, which is not very good. He's been insane when we first met him, and he's about to do that again. But then he looks at the book and he realizes he has a different interpretation of the events. It involves him going back to Precipice. Now, Precipice is a spacing dock outside the Blackstone Fortress where humans and other aliens come by and gather, trade, have the uneasy alliance, but it's sort of a stopping point to prepare and do any of the explorations of the Blackstone Fortress. There's Teddius is going there and try and purge the unclean and gather recruits. It's very easy for him to do that because Precipice is in a bit of a rut. Huge cosmic storms are bombarding and making things unsteady, and the explorers there could just leave Precipice and get out of there, but the weapon systems are more turned on than normal because the Chaos cultists have taken over the Blackstone Fortress and gained control of the weapon system, so any ship trying to leave has a high probability of blowing out of the sky, so people are stuck there in dire straits. Teddius is taking advantage of that and growing a new cult in the name of the God Emperor. Meanwhile, while this is happening, we go to Janus Drake, our main character in the story. Janus Drake is a rogue trader. And while he's interviewing his new associate, Quintus, he gets a letter, and as he reads this, he reads it calmly, and then at the end of it, he realized that his father, who has been funding his expeditions as a rogue trader and everything, has cut him off entirely. His father does not like that he's exploring the Blackstone Fortress and thinks that he has better work elsewhere. But Drake is, still staying through it and trying to explore all he can. But his father cut him off. He's already outcast from his family, and rogue trader is but the only thing he's allowed to do without being without worse punishments. You find that out in the first book. But with that, he is now cut off, and now he is now all he decided to do is go for a business of himself, run his own empire. He needs to amass fortune first. So he makes one final plan to go to Blackstone Fortress to a special vault that he's heard about, and if they can get to that vault, they can gather his riches, and he could start off on his own, not relying on his family. He could be on his own, So he gathers his crew together. And this is the way we introduce the rest of the characters in his party. He has Isola, who we met in the first book. That's his personal assistant. Now, because Janice's father cut them off, she is no longer beheld to his services. So she's going to join Janus Drake, but not as his servant as before. She wants to go to business for herself. She wants to be his partner. Janus Drake is a high noble and will not thinks that's ridiculous and everything, but I'm not going to go into much detail of that. We got Greck, who is not human at all. He's a sort of what describes a bird-like alien called a Kroot, a very carnivorous species. They usually work with the Tau, but in this case, he was one of the explorers who Janus Drake helped in the first book. But now Greck is now with him till his debt to him is fulfilled, and still, obviously, it hasn't been fulfilled yet. We meet it with Otis, who is the pilot of Janus Draik's ship, and we got Quintus, who is a new assistant to Janus. Taking care of making sure he's filled with his smokes, his Elo 6 and stuff like that. So he gathers all in a meeting. He tells them the situation, and they all decide, let's go and we'll go to this vault. Now, in order to do that, they'll need Rouse and Rame, who are two ratlings who know where they're at. So they have to go to the bar that's on Precipice. But I also have to fight through the oncoming cult run by Teddius. So they find Rouse and Rame, and for Teddius, well, the problem is going to the Blackstone Fortress at that point is where the Chaos Cultists have gained such a huge control of it. They just can't grow in a small group. They'll be overrun and outgunned immediately, and even worse. But he goes up to Teddius and trying to stop this uprising here. Janus Drake, taking through his ocular implant, he has recorded pages of Teddius' book, so he's exploring the files, and then he notices something that he's taken advantage of. It involves blooding his hand, which he did breaking a glass, reading his letter to his father that he was cut it off. So he causes his hand to bleed, comes up to Teddius, kind of puts on an act, but he wants to make sure he sees his bloody hand, because apparently in one of the pages of Teddius' book that a man will come by with a bloody hand here, and that will be the Anointed One. And Teddius is convinced that he's not that he's not the Anointed One he always thought he was. It is Janus Drake. So he and all the new priest that Teddius recruited is going to follow him and serve him as an army as they go to this one final trip to the Blackstone Fortress. So that's what it is. Janus Drake is out treasure hunting, and he's got and he has to sort of put on an act to make sure Teddius doesn't think that he's a fraud. They have to go through a series of the new horrors of the Blackstone Fortress, because Chaos Cultists has got new they're corrupting the Blackstone with the new ways that haven't been done before. While they're exploring that, on Precipice, there is a tech priest named Daedalus, who through some of the ship captains that he's talking to, and an interesting orangutan race called the Chikero, they're trying to find out they talk about what's going on with the Blackstone Fortress and help find ways to stop what's happened at Precipice and see if they can save everybody. Now, on another end of this, where Quintus, who is first introduced in this, he has a dark secret of his own. He's a kind of a guy on the run, a constant liar, but he got himself mixed in with an interesting creature called the Archivist. Now, for those of you who played the game, you know who I'm talking about. And he has set him up and to where he is to take Janus Drake to this vault that they're after. And Rouse and Rame were also working for the Archivist. They're also a bit enslaved to him, to where Rouse and Rame will help lead them all to the vault. And Quintus, when he helps Janus Drake reach there, he's going to set off an explosion and kill him. So he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, because he doesn't want to murder anybody. Lying is one thing, but murdering no. And so what's the Archivist's plan? Well, obviously, it's Blackstone Fortress. About most people have their own agendas about this. Now, Rouse and Rame, in the beginning of the book, when they were leading Pius Vorn and Teddius, they were trying to set up something to where Archivist can warp there, but events made it to where they, dropped the device before that, before the vault itself. So they're going to go back there to find it and get, and help get the Archivist to that area. He's trying to warp himself in there and kill Janus Drake in the process, because he wants what's in the vault for himself. So that's all the events. That's a short run of all the events that's happening. It seems kind of mixed up, but it makes sense as you go along here. And here's the thing: Janus Drake is trying to convince Teddius that he's the Anointed One, just so he can recruit Teddius and to help him out with the army to get past the dangers of Blackstone Fortress to reach the vault. But along the way, he's been getting visions. Started off with his ocular implant, but later he's he's changing throughout the story. He's seeing the Blackstone in ways others can't. Passages no one else can see but him. So what started off, what he thought was just an act to convince Teddius to come along and help him out, apparently it's one of those questions: is it more than just an act, or is he actually the anointed one? Because the funny thing about Blackstone Fortress, it kind of has a mind of its own. Greck, the recruit, who has this ability to take the memories of those he eats, as keeps trying to tell everyone that the Blackstone Fortress is alive, and and may have plans for Janus Drake, and Drake starts to believe that. So, will they make it? Can they overcome the Chaos Cultists? Will they save Precipice? Is the vault everything they expected for, or is it just another room that it's just nothing, or is there more beyond that? Don't want to give too much into that. I think it's a good summation of the events of the story, and you can read for yourself. And yeah, I have to say I deeply enjoyed this one. It was good, fast paced. It was on the edge of your seat, but there's something that I found kind of off. What do I mean by off? Well, I don't have a very complete articulated way of saying this, so please bear with me. Maybe you'll hopefully understand. Okay, this is a series of books that go complement a board game, which is no longer being produced by Games Workshop. This is August 2021. I got this at the I got collected the whole thing before the whole thing went out of production, so I got lucky there. But this is fiction that goes with it. The board game's no longer produced. If you're lucky, at this point, you can probably go to your gaming store. They may have a base game. You have to go to secondhand markets online and such to get the expansions, more likely. The point is, it's hard. It's going to be on the harder end to get. So all you have left are these novels. Two novels and an anthology, and they go with it. But the first book is a complete story. The anthology is just short stories, with the exception of one story I had to complain with. Everything kind of fits well, but they fit in between. But they don't progress the overall story. They're just events that happen to explorers who are at Precipice or the Blackstone, and what goes through them, good and bad. And now we continue it with another novel, which is good, action-packed, good pace. Things really accelerate, and it does have a good ending. But for some reason, it feels kind of off. And I figured if you were a new reader, let's just say you're just now want to explore Warhammer 40,000, but you kind of feel intimidated by reading a 20, or how are we at, 30, 40 books of the Horus Heresy, or just you don't want to feel like you're reading 8 books of another set, but you want to read something that's kind of off the main but help you delve into it. I would suggest Blackstone Fortress, but as you read it, it feels, I guess we're kind of spoiled on things like trilogies and how things are progress from one book to a third. And in the end, it's like, while it does offer good, complete stories, some reason feels kind of off. I feel like there was more you could add to these characters of Drake, Isola, and not necessarily develop, but something that kind of feels, feel higher stakes for it. Because from after the first book, and then you go to the third, and after what happens to some of these characters, it feels kind of rushed, kind of, it feels like it, but it may not. But as I read it, it doesn't necessarily be. You already know that they went through several adventures, but you're not exploring those adventures to see how to, further interact, and it just feels like you go from 2 books. And again, maybe it's because we're spoiled by trilogies. These 2 books, you have a beginning and an end, but it feels like there's something in between that could give us more and feel like a complete beginning, middle, and end. I don't know. I'm going off on a rant about this, but it's kind of hard for me to articulate. And I don't know how many of you may have read this. Does it feel the same way to you guys? Maybe not necessarily how I feel. I think it's one of those things where you could agree with me on the broad strokes, but specifically, you may find something that I haven't thought about before, and I may agree with you. But it's one of those, I think, that's going to be hard for people to get into. Like, you could probably do the first one alone, and if they enjoy it, okay, they could probably read the third one. But when you see how that ends, it's like, that went by pretty fast, and you feel like there was feels like there was something missing, despite the fact that really there's not. I feel like there could have been more. To see how this series ends. There could have been another novel or something like that. I mean, the anthology is fine, but again, it doesn't progress the story. Overall story with this, because you're following Janus Drake and his companions into the Blackstone Fortress, and after all of that, maybe they could have had a novel that involved the Archivist, so we're introduced to that in one aspect, and maybe another villain to go about, and I think it's something something like that. But other than that, again, it's like I sat there and read this and I was enjoying it. It was I was enjoying the events and I enjoyed how it ended. And I think it could have been a very definitive, very short trilogy. Well, 4 books if you count the anthology. If you made a 3rd novel, and it could have settled there. You don't need a board game. You have this as one area, the Warhammer 40,000 universe you could have explored. So, sorry if that sounded a bit incoherent there. I wish I could have explained well. I just, at this point, I just can't pinpoint exactly what it was. Just to me, when I read all 3 of these, I enjoyed it, but it felt kind of off. It felt kind of lacking in certain areas. If they could have expanded it just a little bit more, and it doesn't have to be a full, 400-page novel on this. Offhand, why did they go to this size? What happened to old-fashioned, regular-sized paperbacks we're so used to? Games Workshop, Black Library used to do that. Now they have to make these large ones. I'm digressing, of course. But so either way, despite all that, with that somewhat incoherent critique, I can't find anything wrong with the overall story of itself. You're already introduced to Janus Drake and his crew in Blackstone Fortress. If you read the anthology, you read about him and other adventures about that, and you got an ending. So I guess that'd be good enough. And maybe you won't see what I'm seeing. Maybe it's complete enough for you, and that's good. But again, I don't hate it. I can't. I'm not going to say don't read this because of this, because your mileage may vary. And for those of you who have read it, maybe you can find, if you do feel the same way, maybe there's a part that was off for you. Please, share, because I kind of like to hear what others have to say about this. But there you go. Blackstone Fortress Ascension, the 3rd book and final book of the Blackstone Fortress series. For just recap there, we got the Blackstone Fortress, Vaults of Obsidian, which I reviewed in a previous video, and this one is Ascension. And thank you all for watching, and you have a nice day.